أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من اللعين الشيطان الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أوصيكم عباد الله وأوصي نفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل والورع عن محارمه. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us this opportunity so that we may remind each other on our obligations towards Allah, towards ourselves. So I do advise myself and all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, to try our level best to acquire taqwa, to be mindful of our hereafter, to prepare ourselves adequately for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Nazi'at from verse number 34, He tells us, and we need to reflect on this, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى. So when finally the most difficult day comes, when the whole system is going to be changed, everything collapses, and no one can really imagine of what a day it is. The rapid shaking of the earth, scrambling of the mountains, and everything in the universe changes. That's a Taqmatul Kubra. No such a day has been witnessed in our lives. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when this final day comes, يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى. That is the day when every person will be aware of what he has presented. Everything becomes clear. He sees his fate. Whatever he was doing in this world now becomes a reality. He sees it because every amal, every deed is presented to him. وَجَدُ مَا عَمِلُ حَاضِرًا. Everything will be present. Physically he will see what it is that he has put forward for himself. In these days, in this world, one forgets. But on that day, everything will be clear. And everyone will remember everything. What you have really gone very fast for, what was your efforts for, that day it will be seen. يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى. But only that, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't assist anyone to remember what he has presented for himself, because no change is going to be made on the records. Nothing can be useful on that day except the amal salih, the good deed. It's only the taqwa, the clean heart, the pure deeds that a person has done that is going to save him. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعْ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Nothing is going to avail him except that he comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a clean heart. So, on that day, one sees the reality but cannot help himself, cannot go back, despite the fact that one would wish that he's given another opportunity, another chance. so that he may go back, but that is not going to happen. It is sealed. يَوْمَ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى. That's the day you now remember everything. Everything becomes very clear. Every single small deed that you have done in this world is presented to you. And the book doesn't leave anything. So the fate is clear. It's either the hellfire or the eternal bliss. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. So the Jahannam, the hellfire, is presented to everyone who sees. Now everyone can see the hell, because now in this world it's theoretical. We are told about it, we imagine of what it is. We see fires of this world, we see volcanoes, and we can imagine of how fierce is the fire of the hell. But on that day, it will be open. Now everybody can see. وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at this moment, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. So whoever exceeded the limits, whoever did not pay attention to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had instructed him, whoever disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. Tagha is going against the limits, is transgressing. Whoever is of that kind, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, and preferred the life of this world over the hereafter. All attention was given to the world. No care about the Akhera. Akhera was never important. Never remembered that eternal abode. Akhera was just a story. Now all the attention was for this world. All the efforts were for this world. What would give him headache, what would trouble him is Akhera. He wouldn't be troubled so much if he missed out something of wajibat, something of mustahabat. It's not a big deal. But it would bother him if he missed out a certain gain of this world. He preferred dunya over akhirah. وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. So he preferred the life of this world. This person, the end of him, the final fate for him, إِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. So the hell, it is the home now. It's where he is sent to. فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. For that kind of a person who transgressed and preferred this world over the hereafter, that is his fate. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. As for the person who was fearful of the position of his Lord, maqam Rabbi, he was mindful of what is going to be his status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is he going to be like when he stands in front of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He took care of that. So he did not take for granted the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He took it seriously. He was mindful. He remembered that day that he is going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And everybody goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an individual on his own. What is going to be your position? In this world, when we talk of certain things, people argue differently. And with a lot of confidence and courage. Why did you do this? I did this because of that and that. You left hijab. It's not a big deal. You can argue with everybody and try to convince. You left out wajibat, you have excuses and all that. But now remember the day when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would you still have the same arguments? Would you have this to tell the same stories and excuses to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who has the courage, who has the power, who has the energy, who has the strength to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and argue with him when everything is clear and everything is witnessing. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. So whoever was mindful of the position of the status that he will be in with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, and he controlled himself. He abstained from following desires. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He was able to stop himself on muharramat and shubhat. And he remembered the hisab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such a person, إِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَىٰ. Paradise is the final abode. That is the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him. So to gain this, one requires that he is mindful of his status, his position. Remember the day when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for hisab, for accounting. What would be your fate? What is your destiny? As we are told, Al-yawma amalun wala hisab. Wa-ghadan hisabun wala amal. Today it is deeds. There is no accounting. There is no hisab. But tomorrow, that's the hereafter, there is no amal. There is only hisab. We need to reflect on that. We need to remember this. And we need to remember of the need of controlling our desires, not following our shahawat, not obeying ourselves. فَإِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Because if you follow the soul, if you follow the self, it is always commanding you to go into what is haram, what is forbidden. You need to stop it. You need to control it. And this is the most important thing in our lives, because it is just few days in this world. But who has the courage, who has the power to bear the loss of hereafter? To be in fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and protect all of you and other mu'mineen from the hellfire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq that will be able to control ourselves and to maintain taqwa throughout our lives. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. La'in ash-shaytanir rajim. Bifadlillah, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل والورع عن محارم. Once again, I do remind myself and all of you to be cautious of ourselves, to take care of our responsibilities, to try and acquire taqwa in this world is the best of provisions for that very long journey. The only thing that can benefit us is taqwa. It's the faith, it's the clean heart. And we need to take care of ourselves. We need to follow the guidance that has come to us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us with guidance. We don't have an excuse on the day of Qiyamah of why we could go wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the proofs in different ways. The signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are clear, and guidance is open to us. And you can realize that we can access anything in such days. I believe it becomes even more difficult for us to find any excuse. We can learn anything. We can find out anything. Ignorance cannot be an excuse. Of course, people may differ from their locations, from their positions. My second sermon is to touch a little bit on an important obligation in Islam, one of the pillars of Islam, and that is the pillar of Zakat. There's the obligation of Zakat. It's a financial obligation that we have in Islam. And it's so important that the same way we pay attention to our prayers, the same way we pay attention to other wajibat, we are required also to pay attention to this type of obligation, to paying of zakat, paying of alms. In the brief and short time that we have, let me just touch on a few points. I will not rush, I will limit myself to the minutes that are remaining, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us opportunity so that we can exhaust this topic and we can enlighten one another on it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Mu'minun from verse 1 to 4 you can read, where he says, Azza man qa'il, qad aflaha al-mu'minun. Indeed, the believers are successful. Qad aflaha al-mu'minun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes what are the qualities that make a person successful. Aflaha. That is falah. When we say hayya ala al-falah, we are being called to success. Salat is success. Qad aflaha al-mu'minun. For sure, the mu'minun are successful. But these are the qualities that make them successful. He describes them to us. So he says, alladhina hum fi salatihim khashi'un. Quality number one is that they are humble in their prayers. While they perform their prayers, they're full of humility. They feel it in their hearts. Not physically, but in their hearts there's humbleness, there's humility, there's that fear. And the heart does not reach to this position just like that. It needs an effort to make the heart present in the prayers so that it can feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that it become humble. This is one quality. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّهْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And those who turn away from amusements, from play, from things that have got no value, from unimportant things. Things that they don't mean anything to our lives. They are not meaningful. Laghu. So they turn away from anything that is laghu. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. The third quality is that those who do and act on zakat. الَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. And you can realize here the quality is that he is not saying they give zakat, they do zakat. And this carries its own different weight. So they establish zakat in their lives, they act on zakat in their lives. Now, when you go into understanding what is zakat, linguists have their own definitions. So in Arabic, zakat means, and may mean one of the two things. One is at-tathir, purification. Some of the linguistics say zakat, zakah, it means he purified. And another meaning, it's the increase, the increment of something because of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on it. And some scholars like Sayyid Tabatabai, in his Tafsir al-Mizan, has chosen the definition of at-tathir, purification. So when it refers to zakat, it is associated with purification. And you find this in ayah of the Holy Quran, Surah Tawbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and tells him, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ بِهَا وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ. So take from their possessions, from their wealth, zakat, so that you may purify them with it. So from the language point of view, this is the meaning of zakat. It's associated with zakat in the sense of paying alms and giving wealth out for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of the ibadat. Now zakat is of two kinds. There is zakatul abdan and zakatul mal. Zakatul abdan is that type of zakat that we give after the month of Ramadan, zakatul fitra, for ourselves, for our bodies, for our protection. That's zakatul abdan. After we have fasted, we are required to pay zakatul fitra, and is referred in riwayat as zakatul abdan. And the second type of zakat is zakatul mal, that kind of zakat that one is supposed to pay on possessions, on different possessions, as zakatul mal. Now, in the Islamic terminologies in fiqh, where we talk of zakat, we are talking about that type of obligation that is imposed on us as Muslims, as mu'minun, that involves our possessions, that involves our finances, whatever we have earned. This is what is referred to as zakat, where we talk of zakat from fiqh point of view. Now, when you look in the Holy Quran, there are numerous ayat that talk about zakat. I mentioned in the last Friday that you find in the Holy Quran that zakat has been mentioned 29 surahs, or 59 times, and together with salat about 79 times. This is zakat. And you find it being mentioned in riwayat, almost 2,000 riwayats talking about zakat. Now, of course, there is zakat that is wajib and zakat that is mustahab. Zakat that is obligatory and zakat that is mustahab. And therefore, some riwayats you will find that they are talking about zakat in general sense being one of the types of sadaqat, of charity. But there is zakat that is wajib. Now, because of the time, I will not go into the ayats that talk about zakat. I will not talk about the riwayats that talk about zakat and these benefits and what would befall a person if he doesn't give zakat. We'll leave this to another time, inshallah ta'ala. But let's talk a little bit on few masail that involve zakat. What is obligatory in zakat? What's wajib in zakat? So you find that the majority of the scholars, when it comes to zakat that is wajib, there are three groups, categories of things on which zakat is wajib. So they mention the animals, that is goat, sheep, camel, cow, and this kind of animals on which a person, if he possesses a certain number of animals to a certain period with certain conditions, he's supposed to pay zakat. And since my audience, they are not farmers, I will not go into depth about the cows and sheep. We'll leave that to a fiqh class, inshallah ta'ala. The other type of zakat that is wajib is on some crops, such as wheat, barley, raisins, dates. These are known as ghalat al-arba', the things that people plant, and they are supposed to pay zakat on it. And you can see that they are specific, not every crop. Not on sukuma wiki, not on cabbage, not on rice, not on maize. So, there is specific type of crops on which there is zakat. Of course, now a person cannot come and argue, say it should be wajib on this crop or that crop. We follow riwayats on this case. So you have to refer to the marja of taqlid, and that there are specific things that on which you have to pay zakat. Of course, you can give charity on other things as much as you want. There's nothing wrong about it. But if you own this, you have wheat, or you have barley, you have raisins, you have dates, to a certain amount, certain kilos, more than 800 kilos, on specific conditions are fulfilled, then you have to pay zakat on them. Okay, and this is mentioned details in the books of fiqh. The third category of things on which zakat is wajib is the gold and silver. But which gold and silver? Not every gold and silver you have to pay zakat on it. It's only the gold and silver that is used as a currency. It's used as money. Okay? So doesn't mean that if a person has gold or has silver, then he has to pay zakat on it. In fact, if it was used as a currency and it now became something that cannot be used anymore, like you find those coins that were used during the Ottoman Empire or long time before, when there's dinar and dirham as a currency, you own them, you don't have zakat on them because it's maybe no longer used as a currency for purchase or anything. It's only on those things that, those gold and silver coins that are used currently as means of trade. Okay? So when you come to gold chains or other ornaments or things that are made of gold, it's not everything that has gold or silver on which you have to pay zakat. You'll also find these details in the books of fiqh. Okay? It has to attain certain, it should be in certain amount of gold and silver. Okay? Mithqal, they measure it. One mithqal is about 3.5 grams. So the minimal amount of gold, if it's a currency that you have to pay zakat on, is 20 mithqals, which comes to around 70.5 grams, okay, on which you have to pay zakat of 2.5%. And when it comes to silver, same thing, that it has to be at least 105 mithqals, okay, and you have to pay 2.5 on it. That is related to zakat. So these are the three categories of things that majority of the scholars talk about when it comes to zakat. However, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali As-Sistani, hafidhahullah ta'ala, has another category of zakat. That is zakat on business goods. Based on ihtiyat al-wajib, based on obligatory precaution. You don't say it's fatwa. So one could refer to another mujtahid on this, in this regard. So based on obligatory precaution, one has to pay zakat on goods that are for trade, for business, that have been acquired and owned and kept to be sold later on. So if a person buys certain goods and keeps them for a period of a year, if 11 months, if they enter into the 12th month and still they are under his control and possession, he has to pay zakat on them. Provided that the value of those goods have not gone down, it's either the same or it has gone higher, then he has to pay zakat on them with other conditions. This means that zakat is not on every earning or all types of business. Okay, if a person is employed and he's earning certain monies, salary, or he's trading, there's no specific zakat on those earnings. It's zakat on goods which have been acquired to be traded upon in the course of the year. Now I think I will stop here and we'll continue with this topic inshallah ta'ala in the following Fridays, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us respite and gives us health, and hopefully inshallah ta'ala we'll be able to clear certain things and certain issues related to this important obligation.